Executive Director of the Clemson Institute for the Study of Capitalism at Clemson University in South Carolina, and I am also a professor of political science at Clemson University. I was at FEE this weekend to give a talk entitled Why Marxism, which raises, I think, some important questions. For instance, what is the relationship between Marxism in theory and communism in practice? And then secondly, and maybe more interestingly, I raise the question, why do men become communists? And more particularly, why do they become communists despite everything that we know about communism? In the last century, as many as 120 million people were murdered by Marxist-inspired regimes. And yet, certainly in the United States and in Western Europe, we have the remarkable spectacle of virtually an entire intellectual class that has been seduced by the allure of Marx's ideas. So, I mean, this really does raise an important and fundamental question. How it is that reasonably intelligent people could be attracted to such a murderous philosophy. Now, my argument is this, that despite the fact that Marx considered himself to be a scientific socialist, the fact of the matter is that very few people have ever been attracted to Marxism because of the so-called scientism of his philosophy. It's not Marx's labor theory of value. It's not dialectical materialism that have drawn people to his philosophy. And it's certainly not the interminably boring Das Kapital, which has brought people to his philosophy. Rather, in my view, what has been most compelling about Marx's worldview, and which has attracted so many people to that philosophy, is Marx's moralism, his angry, spitting moralism. That, I think, is the deeper level at which people have been attracted to Marx's ideas. And so the question is really this. What is the moral sensibility of people that is attracted to Marxism? And my answer is that we can view the power and allure of Marxism through what I call 3 verses from the Holy Book of Marx. And in my talk, I examined 3 fundamental ideas in Marx. The first comes from the Economic and Philosophic Manuscripts of 1844, where Marx said, quote, "The enemy of being is having." And just think about that. That is a much, much more radical kind of Marxism than the kind which rails against injustice, exploitation, class conflict. There, Marx is saying that what he's really opposed to is the very idea of material accumulation. The second idea that I examine in the talk comes from his critique of the Gotha program, where it's the famous Marxian line, "From each according to his ability, to each according to his need." And this is what I call the principle. This is the moral heart and soul of Marxism. It provides the vision, the ideal that a Marxian society will try to achieve. And then the final verse from the Holy Book of Marx that I examine comes from his Theses on Feuerbach, where Marx says, "Philosophers have only interpreted the world. The point is to change it." And this, I think, this is the idea that I think has inspired intellectuals, Marxist intellectuals, to be more than just ivory tower professors. It's the idea that has inspired college graduates in the 1960s to become urban terrorists, and that has inspired college professors to become guerrillas in the jungles of Central and South America. And so in my talk here at FEE, I examine in some detail the moral meaning of all 3 of these concepts. In the end, Marxian socialism and Marxian communism are ultimately, they must, by definition, come down to one thing: force. The coercive force of the state must be used to redistribute the wealth from Peter to pay for Paul.